Hey everyone, Art Burns here, wishing you well today on this fine Friday afternoon. I hope wherever you are, things are going well. I hope the weather outside and the weather inside are both really beautiful. And if they're not, again, please remember that it's not permanent. Everything that we experience, whether it's the weather or experiences of happiness or experiences of struggle, anything that we're experiencing, it's all impermanent. And to remember that is one of the key aspects to retaining our happiness. And so please remember that if you're not having a good day outside, if the weather is rainy or cloudy and cold or what have you, and it's not a beautiful sunny day as it is out here in Denver, then please know that eventually you will find a good beautiful sunny day. I promise you that. Okay. And similarly, if the weather inside is not beautiful, if you're feeling, stormy and cloudy inside, if you're feeling sad and depressed or worried or concerned or fearful of whatever it is that's going on, please remember that this too will pass. This is all impermanent. Okay, nothing is going to last forever. That's evidence as how we find ourselves in the middle of all this isolation and quarantine and stuff. Nobody could have predicted 6 months ago that this was how we'd be living right now, right? And so, but yet here we are, right? So the good times don't last, neither do the bad times. So just try to remember that. Try to remind yourself anytime you start to feel like you're in this sort of turmoil of worry and fear and uncertainty and insecurity and just general feeling of overwhelming emotions on whatever level. Take a few minutes and just remember that you're here, you're present. You can take a few breaths. You can just allow yourself to become present in your body and remember that everything that's happening externally and internally is constantly changing, and that you're not going to be like this forever, whether it's good or bad, right? And so this leads me, of course, to my three favorite words, right? Presence, acceptance, and compassion, right? If we can practice presence, right, just being right here, right now, we don't worry about the things that might, be concerning us. We will tend away from fear because we will tend to just realize that right now I'm okay. Right now I'm sitting out here. There's a couple of clouds in the sky, but nothing's raining on me, so I'm okay for right now. Right now, maybe in 5 minutes the rain might start, and I'll have to go inside. But it might not happen either. I don't need to think about that. All I can say is that right now everything is okay. I'm alive. I have food in my belly. I have compassion and love in my heart. I have, the weather is not harmful to me, and there's no immediate danger. So right now I'm okay. Right. Sure, I have a lot of work I need to do. I have, my kids require a lot of my attention, and I also have obligations in my work, so it's not to say that I can just kick my feet up and everything's just fine and I can, like live as though I'm living on a beach in Hawaii. But for right now, despite all that work that I have, despite all those issues that I'm going through, I'm okay. Right. And so that's where presence can help us. Now, where acceptance can help us is in the just the very basic sense of accepting what is going on right now. Right. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't change it. Doesn't mean that we don't want to change it. Doesn't mean we don't take actions to change it. Right. If you get stuck in traffic, it doesn't mean that you can't get off the highway and find back roads to get home quicker. Right. But the idea is that if you get stuck in traffic, to not sit there and pound on your steering wheel talking about how you're stuck in traffic and how angry you are about being stuck in traffic, because that is only going to make things worse. Okay. Like today, I'm sitting here in quarantine with two young children who are just, they're just, today they seem especially determined to not allow me to have the time that I need to do my work, right? I could get angry. I could get resentful. I could get, I could wring my hands. I could stomp around. I could allow that emotion to come forth. And that's tempting. I mean, it can be very, very frustrating, but I'm only making it worse if I do that. So instead, I can accept that this is just the way they are today, and therefore my work will just have to kind of go around it. Now, obviously, there are things that need to get done. I have appointments. I have, specific things that I have to do, and that's okay, right? Then those things I need to do, and those things I will do, right? It's not about just, accepting to the point where we surrender to it and don't live our lives, right? So but at the same time, I I can be present and I can be accepting of what my kids need at the same time, as much as I'm able to, right? As much as I'm able to do each or either, I will do so. And that brings us to compassion, right? Knowing that my kids are not doing this because they're trying to make my life hard. They're not doing it because they want me to suffer, right? They're doing it because they are suffering. At everything that we do in our lives, right? We do because we want to move away from suffering, or we want to move towards something that's happy, right? Which is essentially away from suffering, right? And so therefore, if we can, in practicing compassion and acceptance, right? If we can then allow for our hearts to be led by compassion, right? To always be concerned with the relief of the suffering of others. Okay, so in my case today, it's my children, right? I want to concern myself with the relief of their suffering, right? Yes, they're both getting hungry at different times for whatever reason, but that's just the way they are. It's not that they're not doing this to make me suffer. They're doing it because they're suffering, right? They're hungry. They're bored. They're cooped up inside for weeks now. It's hard, and so as I can accept that, and as I can be present with them, I can also allow myself to realize that it's their suffering that is causing their behavior. And if I can act in a way that relieves that suffering, right? First to identify it through empathy and to understand it through empathy, and then to take action to relieve their suffering through compassion. Well, then, you know what, folks? It doesn't change the fact that we're in quarantine. It doesn't change the fact that my kids are stuck inside. It doesn't change the fact that they're both hungry at different times. It doesn't change the fact that they both want to watch different shows on one TV. None of that changes. But what does change is my own ability to handle all this, to manage it, to manage it with my own emotions, right? And that's the key, right? That right there is the key to relieving my own suffering, right? Because the suffering that you feel is never as a result of the experience itself. I mean, I shouldn't say never, but almost never. It's not really the experience itself. It's the inability or the ability of you accepting what the experience is. That's what causes the suffering. When an experience doesn't meet your expectations or doesn't meet the way that you want it to be, right? That's when, and your and again, your ability to be, flexible in that desire and flexible in that need or that expectation, right? If you can't be flexible and you can't adjust yourself, then you're going to suffer, and that's how it is, folks. Okay, so again, presence, acceptance, compassion. Okay, that's what it is. That's everything. If you can be those three things, the more you can embody those three, concepts and ideas, all the time, is the more you're going to be happy. Right now, one thing I wanted to say today that I was kind of thinking about in my notes, the main thing I wanted to talk about today is that a lot of times I tell people this. Okay, so presence, be present, think in the present moment. Don't be in the future, right? But people say to me, but Art, how can I plan things? Right, like parents who I work with, right? Like, well, how can I plan my weekly meals? How can I plan, my activities with my kids if I'm present? Like, how does that work? And it's not just parents; it's also, people. We all have to make plans in our lives, right? You have to make sure that you have enough food in your refrigerator so that you're not going to be hungry later in the week, right? So that requires planning. You have to, put a little money away in the bank account so that you have it for a rainy day. That's planning, right? And there's nothing wrong inherently with planning. Okay, and that's what I want to be very clear about here, because when I talk about presence, a lot of times people think like, well, then I can't plan for things. I just have to constantly live moment to moment to moment. And while it's true that you're living moment to moment to moment, you can plan to prepare yourself for whatever might come. Okay, but here's how you can look at it. Okay, as the great spiritual leader Eckhart Tolle talks about, right? There is never anything that's going to happen in the future, and nothing ever has happened in the past, right? Everything that will happen in the future and everything that has happened at a time in the past has and will happen in a present moment, okay? Because at the end of it, the present moment is all we have, right? So it's okay to plan for present moments, right? But do so with presence. Do so with presence, acceptance, and compassion. right? So how does that work, right? So if you're sitting down and you have to plan out activities for your children for the next 5 days or whatever, or you have to plan out a financial plan or a grocery list or whatever it is that you're trying to plan out, right? Instead of allowing that thing, whatever it is that you're planning, to sort of occupy your thoughts all day, every day, right? Take some time, right? Take some time. Say okay, for this 20 minutes or for this 2 hours, whatever it's going to take, I'm going to sit down and I am going to plan out what needs to happen over the next couple of weeks or a few days or whatever it is, right? So be present with that process, right? Sit down. It's okay to think about the future. It's okay to plan for the future, right? It's not okay to live in the future. That's where we start suffering. When we start thinking about, well, what's going to happen if I don't plan? What's going to happen if I don't have groceries in my refrigerator? What's going to happen if my kids don't have anything to do next Wednesday? What's going to happen there? That's where we start getting into trouble, right? So the idea then is to sit down with presence, acceptance, and compassion, and go ahead and make a list. Go ahead and make a plan. Go ahead and take a calendar and write everything out that you want to do. But now, in the moments leading up to that, again, presence, acceptance, compassion. Okay, and a lot of times that compassion means compassion for yourself, right? Because you can plan out the next 10 days of activities for your kids, but on day number 5, you know how it goes, right? All you parents out there know how that goes. The monkey wrench is going to go into the works one way or the other, right? And so you can't plan for every single contingency with kids, especially with anything in life. You can't plan for any contingency. Like, I go back to the coronavirus, right? 6 months ago, nobody could have planned for what's going on right now, right? So therefore, after you've planned it, like it's kind of there's a saying that says, set it and then forget it, right? Just plan it, write it down, make it as best you can, and then put it aside. Don't feel like you have to abide by every single minute detail of that plan. Again, presence, acceptance, compassion in the moment to moment to moment living leading up to these planned activities that you have, right? So I hope that helps you. I hope that makes it clear in terms of the ability and the okay, the grants you the permission to go ahead and plan for things that might happen in the future. But the idea is, don't attach yourself to those things in the future. Remember that everything that happens is a present moment. So as much as you want to get a sort of roadmap, a guidepost, a game plan, remember that you can also just let it go, right? You can just be present, accepting, and compassionate in each moment as you go through those plans, right? And that will help you to be flexible, that will help you to be patient, and most of all, that will help you to be compassionate for yourself, right? For those things that you didn't think of, and the things that, the rainy day, so you can't go to the park, what have you, right? It's going to allow you to be forgiving of yourself, and also allow you to be patient and compassionate to the ones who you love, who you're planning for originally. All right. So I hope you enjoy that. Please let me know if you have any questions. Comment below, send me a direct message, reply to this email, whatever it is. I would love to help you understand this stuff more deeply. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Take care. I wish you well.